The diner's neon sign flickered, casting a pink glow over Eli's trembling hands. He sat across from Caleb, the only person who ever made his heart feel like it could outrun the shame his mother spat at him daily. "You're not my son," she'd hissed that morning, her words slicing deeper than any knife could. Eli Carter, 24, was no stranger to rejection. Growing up in Willow Creek, Georgia, a town where tradition clung tighter than the summer humidity, he'd learned to hide his truth. His sketchbook, tucked under his arm now, was his only sanctuary, a place where he could draw the world as it should be, not as it was. Across from him, Caleb Monroe, 26, sipped his coffee, his calloused fingers betraying the gentleness in his green eyes. Caleb, the town's best mechanic, was a man of few words but endless loyalty. They'd met 6 months ago when Eli's beat-up Chevy broke down, and something unspoken had sparked between them, a connection neither dared name until tonight. The diner buzzed with locals, their whispers sharp as they eyed the two men. Eli's mother, Deborah, had made sure everyone knew her son was wrong, a stain on the Carter family's pristine reputation. "He's not mine," she'd say, claiming her late husband's affair had produced Eli, a lie she wielded to justify her cruelty. But tonight, Eli wasn't here to hide. He leaned closer to Caleb, their knees brushing under the table, and whispered, "I can't keep pretending." Caleb's jaw tightened. "You don't have to. Not with me." His voice was low, steady, like the hum of an engine he'd just fixed. But before Eli could respond, the diner door slammed open, and Deborah stormed in, her face a mask of fury. She'd heard the rumors. Her gay son was flaunting his sin in public. The room fell silent as she marched toward their booth, her heels clicking like gunfire. "Elijah Carter, you will not disgrace this family," she snapped, her voice echoing. Eli froze, his sketchbook slipping to the floor. Caleb stood, placing himself between mother and son, his broad shoulders a shield. "Mrs. Carter, leave him be," he said, calm but unyielding. Deborah's eyes narrowed, venom dripping from her words. "You're nothing but trouble, Monroe. And you," she turned to Eli, "you're no son of mine." The words stung, but Eli's heart pounded with something new, defiance. He grabbed Caleb's hand, right there in front of everyone, and stood. "I'm done letting you define me," he said, his voice shaking but resolute. The diner gasped, but Eli didn't care. He and Caleb walked out, hand in hand, into the Georgia night, unaware that a letter from Eli's late father, hidden for years, was about to change everything. Eli's childhood home loomed like a prison as he and Caleb approached it later that night. Deborah's words still burned in his ears, but Caleb's presence grounded him. The house, a faded Victorian on Maple Street, held memories of his father, James, who died 2 years ago. James had been kind, quiet, a stark contrast to Deborah's relentless judgment. Eli hadn't known then that his father's silence hid secrets of his own. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Deborah sat at the kitchen table, her Bible open, as if it could erase the scene at the diner. "You're not welcome here," she said without looking up. Eli's older sister, Hannah, hovered nearby, her eyes torn between loyalty to their mother and pity for her brother. Hannah, 28, was the golden child, married to a pastor and living the life Deborah approved of. But even she couldn't ignore the shift in Eli tonight. "I'm not here to fight," Eli said, his voice steadier now. "I just need my things." He moved toward his old room, Caleb at his side, but Deborah's voice stopped him cold. "Your father would be ashamed of you." Eli's heart lurched. James had never judged him, not even when Eli came out at 18. But Deborah's lie, that Eli was the product of an affair, had always cast a shadow over those memories. Caleb squeezed Eli's shoulder. "She's wrong," he whispered. They grabbed Eli's sketchbooks and clothes, but as they turned to leave, Hannah slipped Eli a small, sealed envelope. "Dad left this for you," she whispered, glancing nervously at their mother. "Don't open it here." Outside, under the glow of a street lamp, Eli tore open the envelope. Inside was a letter in his father's handwriting, dated a month before his death. "My dearest Eli," it began, "there's something you need to know about our family, about me, and about the truth your mother has buried." Eli's hands shook as he read on, Caleb's arm around him. The letter revealed that James had been in love with a man decades ago, a secret he'd kept to protect his family in a town that wouldn't understand. Deborah had known and used it to control him, twisting the narrative to disown Eli. Eli's breath caught. His father hadn't just loved him, he'd understood him. The letter ended with a bombshell. James had left Eli a significant portion of his estate, including a trust fund Deborah had hidden. "You are my son," James wrote, "and no one can take that from you." The next morning, Eli and Caleb sat in a quiet park, the letter spread out between them. Willow Creek's oak trees swayed in the breeze, their branches heavy with the weight of a town that judged too quickly. Eli felt like he was seeing his father for the first time, not just as a parent, but as a man who'd lived a lie to survive. "He loved someone he couldn't have," Eli said, his voice thick. "Just like us." Caleb nodded, his eyes distant. "My dad kicked me out when I was 17, he admitted, the first time he'd shared this with Eli. "Called me a disappointment. I've been on my own since." Eli reached for his hand, their fingers interlocking. "You're not alone anymore," he said. The words felt like a vow. But the letter's revelations weren't just personal, they were legal. James had named Eli as the primary beneficiary of a trust fund worth over $200,000, enough to start a new life. Deborah had concealed it, claiming Eli wasn't entitled because he wasn't hers. Eli's anger flared, but so did his determination. He wasn't just fighting for himself now. He was fighting for the truth his father had died protecting. They drove to the office of Mr. Thompson, the family's lawyer, a kindly man in his 60s who'd known James for decades. Thompson's office smelled of old books and coffee, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside Eli. "Your father was clear," Thompson said, adjusting his glasses. "This trust is yours, Eli. Deborah has no legal claim to it." He handed over documents proving James's intentions, including a clause that required the will to be read publicly if contested. Eli's mind raced. A public reading would expose Deborah's lies and his father's secret. It would shake Willow Creek to its core. "Do it," Eli said, his voice firm. Caleb squeezed his hand, a silent promise to stand by him. As they left the office, Eli felt the weight of his father's love and the burden of what was to come. The town would talk, judge, and condemn, but for the first time, Eli was ready to face it all. The news of the public reading spread through Willow Creek like wildfire. By the next afternoon, the town hall was packed, its wooden pews filled with curious neighbors, churchgoers, and gossips. Eli stood at the back, Caleb by his side, his heart pounding like a drum. He'd never wanted to be the center of attention, but today, he had no choice. This was about his father's truth and his own. Deborah sat in the front row, her face a mask of righteous indignation. Hannah, beside her, looked pale, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The air was thick with anticipation as Mr. Thompson took the podium, his voice steady as he began reading James Carter's will. "To my son, Elijah James Carter," he started, and Eli felt every eye in the room turn to him. "I leave the trust fund established in 2010 to be used for his education, dreams, and future, free from interference." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Deborah stood, her voice shrill. "That boy is no son of mine. James was coerced into this." Her words were met with murmurs, some sympathetic, others skeptical. Thompson raised a hand for silence. "Mrs. Carter, the will is legally binding. And there's more." He cleared his throat and read on, revealing James's personal letter to the town, a confession of his own hidden love for a man named Thomas, a high school friend he'd let go to build the life Deborah demanded. The room fell silent, the weight of James's words sinking in. Eli's throat tightened as he pictured his father, young and in love, forced to bury his heart. Caleb's hand found his, a quiet anchor in the storm. Deborah's face crumpled, not with sorrow, but with fury. "Lies," she shouted, but her voice cracked, betraying her. The town, so quick to judge Eli, now turned their scrutiny on her. Whispers grew louder. Had Deborah known? Had she lied to control the family's legacy? After the reading, Eli and Caleb slipped out to the town hall steps, the night air cool against their skin. "I didn't expect it to feel like this," Eli admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Free but heavy. Caleb pulled him close, his lips brushing Eli's forehead. "You're carrying his truth now. And yours. That's not light work." Eli nodded, tears stinging his eyes. For the first time, he felt like he belonged, not to Willow Creek, but to himself. The days that followed were a blur of confrontation and change. Deborah called a family meeting, demanding Hannah and her husband, Pastor Mark, back her in contesting the will. They gathered in the Carter living room, the same room where Eli had once drawn pictures for his father, unaware of the secrets they both carried. Deborah's voice was sharp as she laid out her plan. "We'll say James was unwell, manipulated. The town will believe me." Hannah, usually compliant, hesitated. "Mom, what if Dad meant it? What if Eli deserves this?" Her words hung in the air, a crack in the family's facade. Mark, a stern man with a preacher's authority, sided with Deborah. "This is about God's will, Hannah. Eli's lifestyle is a sin." Eli, standing in the doorway, felt his heart sink. He'd hoped Hannah might understand, but her silence now felt like betrayal. Caleb, who'd insisted on coming, stepped forward. "This isn't about sin. It's about a man's dying wish for his son." His voice was calm, but carried the weight of someone who'd fought his own battles. Deborah scoffed, but Hannah's eyes met Eli's, flickering with doubt. Before anyone could respond, Eli spoke. "I'm not here to beg for your love, Mom. I just want what Dad wanted for me, a chance to live honestly." He left the house, Caleb at his side, but the encounter left a mark. That night, in Caleb's small apartment above the auto shop, Eli broke down. "I thought I could handle losing her," he said, his voice muffled against Caleb's chest. "But it still hurts." Caleb held him, his own past echoing in the silence. "Family doesn't always mean blood," he said. "Sometimes it's the people who choose you." Eli looked up, his eyes searching Caleb's. "You chose me." Caleb smiled, a rare, soft expression. "And I'd do it again." Their lips met, tentative at first, then desperate, as if kissing could heal the wounds of a lifetime. In that moment, Eli knew he wasn't just fighting for his father's legacy. He was fighting for a future where he and Caleb could exist without fear. The legal battle loomed, but Eli found strength in small victories. The trust fund gave him access to resources he'd never had. Art supplies, a chance to enroll in a community college art program, and a dream of leaving Willow Creek. But he wasn't ready to run yet. The town's reaction to the will's reading was mixed. Some, like old Mrs. Jenkins from the diner, offered quiet support, while others, like Pastor Mark's congregation, doubled down on their judgment. One afternoon, Eli and Caleb were working on a mural in the town square, a project Eli had pitched to beautify Willow Creek. It was a bold move, painting vibrant colors in a place that preferred gray conformity. As they worked, a group of teens approached, led by Sarah, a high school senior who'd always admired Eli's sketches. "I heard about your dad," she said, her voice shy. "I think it's cool you're standing up for yourself." Her friends nodded, and Eli felt a spark of hope. Maybe the town could change, even if just a little. But not everyone was so kind. That evening, as Eli and Caleb locked up the mural site, a truck roared by, its driver shouting slurs. A bottle shattered at their feet, glass skittering across the pavement. Caleb pulled Eli behind him, his body tense, but the truck sped off. "You okay?" Caleb asked, his voice tight. Eli nodded, but his hands shook. "I'm tired of being afraid," he said. Caleb's eyes softened. "Then we'll keep fighting. Together." That night, Eli sketched a portrait of his father, imagining him with Thomas, the man he'd loved. The drawing was raw, full of longing and loss, but also love. As he showed it to Caleb, he felt a shift inside him, a resolve to honor his father by living openly, no matter the cost. The courtroom was a battlefield of whispers and stares. Willow Creek's small county courthouse, usually reserved for traffic disputes, was packed for the Will's hearing. Eli sat beside Mr. Thompson, his sketchbook clutched like a shield, while Caleb waited in the back, his presence a steady comfort. Deborah, dressed in her Sunday best, sat across the aisle, her lawyer, a slick man from Atlanta, ready to dismantle James's wishes. The judge, a stern woman named Margaret Holt, called the room to order. Deborah's lawyer argued first, painting James as a confused man under undue influence, claiming Eli's lifestyle disqualified him from inheritance. Eli's stomach churned, but Thompson countered with James's letter, reading it aloud to the court. "My son, Eli, is my legacy," James had written. "His heart is mine, and no lie can change that." The words hit Eli like a wave, washing away years of doubt. Deborah's composure cracked as the judge questioned her. "Mrs. Carter, did you conceal this trust from your son?" Judge Holt's voice was sharp, her eyes piercing. Deborah stammered, her lies unraveling. "I was protecting the family," she insisted, but the judge's frown deepened. Hannah, called as a witness, surprised everyone. "Dad loved Eli," she said, her voice trembling. "He wanted him to have this." The betrayal in Deborah's eyes was palpable, but Hannah held her ground, a flicker of courage breaking through. The hearing ended with a temporary ruling in Eli's favor, pending further review. As the crowd dispersed, Eli felt lighter, but the victory was bittersweet. Hannah approached him outside, her eyes red. "I'm sorry I didn't stand up sooner," she said. Eli hugged her, the first real connection they'd had in years. "You did now," he said. Caleb joined them, his hand resting on Eli's back, a silent reminder of their shared strength. Back at Caleb's apartment, Eli pored over the trust documents, dreaming of what $200,000 could mean: a studio for his art, a home for him and Caleb, a life beyond Willow Creek. But the town wasn't done with them. Pastor Mark organized a protest outside the courthouse, his congregation waving signs about family values. Eli and Caleb walked through the crowd, heads high, but the hatred stung. "How do you keep going?" Eli asked Caleb later, as they sat on the apartment's small balcony. Caleb leaned back, staring at the stars. "I stopped caring what people think a long time ago. You taught me there's more to fight for." Eli smiled, his heart swelling. They talked late into the night, planning a future where they could be themselves. Eli sketched as they spoke, capturing Caleb's profile against the moonlight, every line a testament to their growing love. The next day, Eli visited his father's grave, a quiet spot under a willow tree. He laid his sketch of James and Thomas beside the headstone, whispering, "I'm living for both of us now." The wind rustled the leaves, and Eli felt his father's presence, a quiet approval. When he returned to Caleb, he found him working on the mural, adding a small heart hidden in the design, a symbol of their bond. But trouble was brewing. Deborah, desperate to maintain control, spread rumors that Eli was planning to destroy the town's values with his inheritance. The diner, once a neutral space, became hostile. Mrs. Jenkins, the owner, banned Deborah after she caused a scene, but the damage was done. Eli and Caleb faced glares everywhere, their love a lightning rod for the town's fears. One night, as they closed up the mural site, a group of men approached, led by Mark's brother, Tom. "You don't belong here," Tom sneered, his fists clenched. Caleb stepped forward, his voice steady. We're not going anywhere. The tension broke when Sarah and her friends appeared, phones out, recording. Leave them alone, Sarah said, her voice fierce. Tom backed off, but the threat lingered, a reminder that love in Willow Creek came with a price. Eli threw himself into the mural, pouring his heart into every stroke. It depicted Willow Creek's history, its beauty, its flaws, and its potential for change. Townsfolk stopped to watch, some with curiosity, others with disdain. Sarah and her friends became regular helpers, their laughter a balm against the town's hostility. One afternoon, an older man named Mr. Grayson, who'd known James in high school, approached Eli. "Your dad was my friend," he said quietly. "He'd be proud of you." The words hit Eli hard. He realized he wasn't just fighting for himself or Caleb. He was fighting for every person in Willow Creek who'd ever hidden their truth. The mural became a symbol, a challenge to the town's rigid heart. As he painted, Caleb worked beside him, their hands brushing, their love a quiet rebellion. Each night, they returned to Caleb's apartment, building a world where they could be free, even if just for a moment. The final court date arrived like a storm on the horizon. Eli stood outside the courthouse, Caleb's hand in his, the mural's vibrant colors visible in the distance. The town had split. Some rallied behind Eli, inspired by his courage, while others clung to Deborah's narrative of betrayal. Inside, Judge Holt reviewed the final evidence: James's letter, financial records, and Hannah's testimony. Deborah's lawyer tried to spin a tale of coercion, but the truth was undeniable. "The trust belongs to Elijah Carter," the judge declared, her gavel a thunderclap. "This court finds no grounds to contest the will." Deborah's face fell, her control slipping away. She stormed out, refusing to look at Eli. Hannah lingered, her eyes conflicted. "I'm trying to understand, Eli," she said before leaving. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. Outside, Sarah and her friends cheered, their support a small victory in a town still wrestling with change. Eli and Caleb embraced, the weight of the fight lifting, if only slightly. The trust fund was released, and Eli's dreams took shape. He enrolled in an art program in Atlanta, a city that felt like a world away from Willow Creek's judgment. Caleb, ever practical, planned to open a small auto shop there, one where he could work with pride. They found a modest apartment, a space to build their life together. But Willow Creek wasn't done with them yet. The mural, now nearly complete, had become a lightning rod. Vandals struck one night, splashing paint over Eli's work, scrawling slurs across the vibrant scenes. Eli's heart sank as he and Caleb surveyed the damage. "Why do they hate us so much?" he asked, his voice breaking. Caleb knelt, picking up a broken paintbrush. "They're scared of what they don't understand. But this," he gestured to the mural, "this is bigger than them." Together, they repaired the damage, Sarah and her friends joining in. The act of restoration felt like defiance, a refusal to let hate win. As spring bloomed, Eli and Caleb settled into their new life in Atlanta. The city's energy was a stark contrast to Willow Creek's suffocating norms. Eli's art flourished, his sketches now bold with color and truth. Caleb's shop thrived, his quiet strength drawing customers who valued his skill and honesty. They built a community, friends who accepted them, artists who inspired Eli, mechanics who respected Caleb. But Willow Creek lingered in their hearts, a place they couldn't fully leave behind. One day, a letter arrived from Hannah. She'd left Mark, questioning the faith that had kept her silent for so long. "I'm learning, Eli," she wrote. "I want to know you, the real you." Eli cried as he read it, Caleb's arms around him. They invited Hannah to visit, and when she arrived, the siblings talked for hours, rebuilding a bond fractured by years of lies. Hannah admitted she'd been wrong to stay silent, and Eli forgave her, knowing healing took time. The mural in Willow Creek was completed, unveiled at a small ceremony. To Eli's surprise, many townsfolk attended, including Mr. Grayson and Mrs. Jenkins. The mural told a story of love, loss, and hope, with a hidden heart for James and Thomas, and another for Eli and Caleb. Sarah spoke at the event, her voice strong. "This is for everyone who's ever felt they didn't belong," she said. The crowd was quiet, some nodding, others still unsure, but the seeds of change were planted. That night, Eli and Caleb stood before the mural, hand in hand. "We did it," Eli said, his voice full of wonder. Caleb smiled. "You did it. I just followed." Eli laughed, pulling Caleb into a kiss, unashamed under the Georgia stars. They'd fought for their place in the world and won, not just the trust fund, but the right to love openly. Back in Atlanta, Eli began a new project, a series of paintings about his father's life, each canvas a tribute to James's hidden love and unspoken courage. The first piece, showing James and Thomas as young men under a willow tree, sold at a gallery show, the proceeds going to a local LGBTQ youth center. Eli and Caleb attended the opening, their hands clasped, their love a quiet triumph. Friends surrounded them, their laughter filling the space where shame once lived. Willow Creek slowly changed. Sarah started a youth group for acceptance, inspired by Eli's mural. Mrs. Jenkins turned her diner into a safe space, banning hate speech. Even Deborah, though distant, stopped spreading lies, her influence waning as the town grappled with its past. Eli and Caleb visited occasionally, each trip a reminder of how far they'd come. One evening, as they sat on their apartment balcony, Eli sketched Caleb, his face softened by the city lights. "What's next for us?" Eli asked, his pencil pausing. Caleb took his hand, his eyes warm. "Everything," he said, "as long as it's with you." Eli smiled, his heart full, knowing they'd built a life where love was no longer a secret. Years later, Eli stood before a crowd at a national art exhibition, his paintings of love and resilience earning praise. Caleb, now his husband, stood proudly beside him, their wedding bands glinting under the gallery lights. The centerpiece was a portrait of James, his eyes kind, his smile hinting at the love he'd hidden. The plaque read, "For my father, who taught me to live my truth." Eli's speech was simple but powerful. Love isn't a sin, it's a legacy. Hannah was there, now an advocate for inclusivity, her own journey of unlearning prejudice inspiring others. She and Eli had rebuilt their relationship, their bond stronger for its scars. Deborah, though invited, didn't come, but she'd sent a letter, a single line. "I'm trying to understand." It wasn't love, but it was progress, and Eli held it lightly, knowing his worth didn't depend on her approval. Willow Creek had changed, too. The mural remained a landmark, a testament to the town's slow awakening. Sarah, now in college, led a regional youth movement, her courage a ripple effect of Eli's fight. Mrs. Jenkins's diner became a hub for open conversations, and even Pastor Mark softened, his sermons shifting toward compassion. The town wasn't perfect, but it was learning. Eli and Caleb built a life of quiet victories. Their Atlanta home was filled with art, laughter, and friends who became family. They mentored young people, offering the support they'd once craved. Each night, they returned to each other, their love a refuge and a rebellion. Eli's sketchbook, once a hiding place, was now a celebration, every page a story of survival. As they stood on their balcony one night, the city sprawling below, Eli traced the lines of Caleb's hand. "We made it," he whispered. Caleb kissed him, slow and sure. "We always will." The stars above echoed James's love, a reminder that truth, once spoken, could silence even the loudest lies. Their story wasn't just theirs. It was a beacon for anyone who dared to love in a world that didn't always understand.